This is festivalPass Stories, a podcast series is told by the people who create and make festivals come to life. You will go behind the stage, kitchen, or studio door to hear the stories of passion and inspiration that started some of the world's most beloved festivals. Hear the startup stories and how an idea went from what if to what's next. Hey guys, welcome back to festivalPass Stories, where of course we take you behind the stage, the studio, the kitchen door, and today we take you behind the mic. You can see it right there, and behind the scenes before the show even starts to hear from the guy who gets them going, warming up audiences like, wait for this, Good Morning America, The View, $100,000 Pyramid, and America's Got Talent. What? Just to name a few. And he has talent as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Kelly. Tom Kelly.
It was hard to hear your intro with all those names being dropped. Thank you.
It was, yeah. You need an umbrella for those names being dropped. On that note, why is it $100,000 pyramid? When they rebooted the show, why wasn't it like $100 billion pyramid? I don't understand, because that was like in the 70s, 100,000 was a lot of dough, or the 60s when it came out. Now it's like Michael Strahan's out there and he's like, welcome to $100,000 pyramid. And that's like what Michael has in his back pocket.
So during the commercials, we make that joke. First of all, Michael, for a guy who has money, he simultaneously makes you feel he's a regular guy, and you feel like he genuinely takes the ride with the contestant. And we've made that joke. I think 100,000 still is that in that sweet spot. I think people were nostalgic about the Dick Clark name because and the Dick Clark amounts. They weren't so nostalgic that they bumped it down to 25,000 or 10,000 pyramid like it was.
Recession pyramid. Welcome to the $30,000 pyramid after taxes, $15,000 pyramid.
Well, and now behind the scenes jokes we would make during warm-ups is, we would say, once the contestant left and they would say, what are you going to do with a $100,000 pyramid? Well, I am going to pay for mom's nursing home. I'm going to buy a house and I'm going on a cruise. And I'm like, you don't even have enough money to do one of those things. You might get the cruise. Or then the person would say, oh, what would you do with the $100,000? Buy a house. And I'm like, where? Not in New York. Not in New York, buddy. Yeah. You're going to have to win this show a few more times to get a good down payment. But the $100,000 pyramid, I think the fun thing about the guys who are producing it now, it's a man named Vin Rubino, who actually was one of the early guys who was part of the team to bring Millionaire to New York. He's actually rebooted the Newlywed Game for the Game Show Channel years ago. The man is he's a modern game show legend. He has, I think, The Chase coming out on ABC now. But what he gets as a producer is what people were nostalgic about. And comparing, and the reason why the Strahan reboot works and other incarnations may not have worked as well is, one, you have Strahan, the smartest and most charming guy on earth. And Strahan is... I guess that's why he's anchoring a morning news show. I think he has a photographic memory. That's been written in sports articles. Mm-hmm. But Strahan is also the most natural. If you average these things out, he's the most smartest, charming, and kind host in network TV. If you average those things out, and muscular, muscular.
No, he's definitely outside of his old co-host, probably the fittest person on television in the morning.
What Vin Rubino brings to the $100,000 pyramid is they brought back the sound effects. They put a lot of money into hiring union stagehands. Let me give Let me give a shout out to the stagehands who's here. Yeah, Scott Backenauer and John Glynn are two of the prop guys there, where they actually they call them the Trilons, where in the old days it was just a piece of plexiglass with the category name, and they would spin it. Now they actually are spinning, 55-inch flat screen TVs, and it's nostalgic. And actually, my friend Jesse, who is and Sean, who's the electrician, it sounds crazy, but they really have balanced modern technology with the nostalgia element. Yeah. It's the set design, it's the look, it's the feel, and you actually hear the little screws turning every time they spin the TV. It's amazing.
This guy is the modern day Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production guy, Rubino.
Rubino, God, and I can't believe I'm building him up this much. I better get a raise for the next season. But Rubino gets a sense of that. And, you could have easily, with the Trilons, just, switch the graphic.
Mm.
Like it's funny, like you could have done with what Wheel of Fortune does, where you could have just pressed a button and a letter just pops up.
Yeah.
They knew viewers were nostalgic, not just about the Trilon, not just about the pyramid, not just about the game show and the host, but about the silly spin. And it is
about the manual nature of it and the magic of television.
No, and it's tough to tell on these on our virtual meeting, but the guys who spin actually are squatted. I think it's 2 per pyramid, and they're ready to go, and they're listening for the cues with headsets. And you talk about a behind the scenes experience. Going to the pyramid truly is a great behind the scenes experience. Because again, you got me telling jokes at the commercials. That's charming, but you will become a fan of the way the show is done. You see the work that goes into the details and the elements of it, and that shines through on your TV on Sunday nights.
And it's good to see the Trilons back after the guys on Star Trek had to fight them back, right? Or was that the Klingons? Trilons?
The Trilon. I think there was also a show, The Gamesters of Triskelion was a Star Trek episode. Yeah, not to go all deep. Again, can't remember the last 4 digits of my phone number right now, but I can remember Gamesters of Triskelion, one of the worst episodes. It was where Captain Kirk wore a neck thing where you would press a button and it would electrocute him. I feel the same way when I'm wearing face masks in 2020.
Got it. I like it. So on that note, so you're doing this virtually. So you're essentially doing comedy via Zoom when you're doing the Tamron Hall show.
When I'm doing the Tamron Hall warm up, it's more of I think of it as being a morning show DJ with 80 callers on hold.
Okay.
Yeah. And
you're controlling it. They're all muted.
Well, I mute them because you know what? The one thing it's funny. They're very authentic with using the Zoom audience there. I think out of all the shows, not to blow smoke up the butts of the people who are hiring me there, but the director there, Randy Lennon, and a woman, the executive producer, Candy Carter, and I believe Tamron, and this comes from Tamron herself, is they want the reactions to be authentic. A lot of the shows right now, they tape the reactions ahead of time. Authentic is a word I hear a lot at Tamron Hall, and they actually have a live Zoom screen up. They try to rotate the boxes so everybody gets a few seconds on TV. And what I'm doing there is the one thing that doesn't shine through is Zoom audio. When you got more than 3 people, it's tinny and painful on the ears. So when I'm doing Zoom stand-up, I like to have everybody muted. And the hard part with warm-up is it's about connecting with the people and making them feel like they're not at a Zoom meeting. So my gimmick there is I talk to people one by one. I try to make jokes off the top of my head. It's a lot easier when I've had my morning cup of coffee. And, and then the trick too is to connect with people. And it's actually, I as a comedian, I'm ashamed to say it, but I'm actually enjoying the art form. It's not... Yeah, I know most comedians are saying, I can't wait to get back in front of live crowds. I can't wait to get back to the clubs. Me, I'd be happy.
They say it just like that too, with that ogre screech right in the beginning.
I mean, yeah, and I'm like, why are you changing your voice like that? That is just so inappropriate. You're offending ogres.
You're a lady, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a famous enough Amy Schumer. Why are you doing that with your voice? Joan Rivers. Oh no, she's dead. But you get what I'm saying. But yeah, I am very happy. You know, it's funny. Like going into work, I miss the people I like.
Yep.
But I don't miss the people I don't like.
When with this Zoom interface, are there Zoom hecklers? Would you call them Zecklers or Whooms, perhaps?
I'll tell you this: there's
not even the opportunity for that because you can mute them.
You can mute them, and you could even hit the boot button. I think there's a boot button. I haven't pressed it yet, but I have the confidence of a man with a boot button. I don't know if it's really there, but I do have the confidence of a man thinking I can press the button and make the audience member go away, and then you just say, "Oh, pay for better Wi-Fi next time."
Yeah, the Dr. Evil eject seat. I love it.
Yeah. I don't know if that's there, but I think it's there. For TV work, it's truly people who want to be there, who want to connect with other people, who want to feel like they're at an event. Whereas I would say when I've done corporate TV, corporate comedy, half the windows have the do not disturb button on, or whatever you call that. Right. I think when I've done a couple of corporate holiday parties, and at least for the first few minutes going in, there's the vibe of, I really don't want to see Ted talk for another 20 minutes here. I gave you my 8 hours. Why do I have to do more? Yeah. And in fact, the last couple of corporate events I've done, they haven't called them corporate holiday parties or corporate events. They've called them employee appreciation time.
Yes.
And there's a whole art to that too that I'm still figuring out.
And the employees are like, how is this appreciation of us if we have to stare at another Zoom meeting? And they're like, well, this one's going to be entertaining.
And that's it. And that's a trick too. And you know what's funny with some of the things? One, if you're doing a virtual event, and I don't know if our friends here at festivalPass believe this or not with their virtual events, but I think shorter is better for everything. Well, I think we're just sick of staring at the webcam right now, but we still want it. But what we want is more packed in. We don't want the fluff. And I think the one thing that Zoom has done to everybody is everybody's treating it like they're in the conference room when we all need to treat whatever kind of Zoom meeting you're doing, whether it be a stand-up comedy show, warm up for a TV show, or frankly, the 3:00 account meeting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we should all be treating them like they're a TV show. We should be changing the elements behind us. Have a rundown for the show. I always say this about stand-up comedy. Stand-up comedy is punchline every 15 seconds. And while you may not make a punchline, there should be a salient point every 15 seconds. Okay. And there shouldn't be that, so what do you want to talk about next?
Where are you from, Minneapolis? Cleveland? Who's from Cleveland? I was from there.
You know what? Actually, do you find this too? I find Zoom meetings are so painful to hang up on. It's like calling mom in the 90s. Yeah. There's this, no, you hang up. No, you hang up.
All right, how's this going? You hang up. It looks like my camera's still on. Mom, it is. It is still on.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying too. And folks, I did one Zoom comedy show and I asked for a tape of my performance. And the tape that came back, and by tape, I mean recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't mean a physical VCR tape. Yes. We have a lot of young people watching this, and they're like, what's the tape?
For these millennials saying, are you hooking the VHS machine into your laptop? No. But I had a woman, her name was Jeannie. She was the MC of a open mic night, one of the first Zoom open mic nights. And God bless, she didn't give me the recording of the show. She gave me a 60-minute recording of her just typing at her computer.
It's fantastic.
And really, I've been
you should put that out on Instagram stories. People will be like, this is the best. This is the content I'm here for.
I have been meaning to do that. And anybody who listening, if you get any advice from me, put a Post-it on the camera after, because you don't know who's looking. It's either going to your coworkers or it's going to China. I don't know.
Is very true. Tom, you have a very niche job where you warm up audiences before the show. We never see you on camera. Maybe we rarely see you coming out of commercial breaks or whatever. How does somebody get into that kind of business? Because not like I go on Indeed and see those jobs out there. They're not out there. It's like one of those jobs where it's like, how did you become a food critic? How did you start warming up audiences? Where did this come about?
So you jammed a lot of questions into one there. You fail. How do you sausage in there. Yeah. So how do you become a warm-up comedian? You fail at a lot of other things and you get lucky. And I don't even want to be so negative as to say fail. Listen, I'm a stand-up comedian. I have a podcast, The Tom Kelly Show. I have a YouTube channel, The Tom Kelly Show. I have done stand-up all around this country, and those are not the things I'm known for. I got lucky years ago while doing a web TV show called The Little Merman. It's still on YouTube if you dig for it. And I'll save you some trouble. There's 6 episodes. Watch episodes 4, 5, and 6. If you're feeling really like your time is short, 5 and 6. It was about the web TV show, about me quitting comedy to be a male mermaid in an underwater mermaid show.
That sounds like it should be on Netflix. I would have watched that after Tiger King.
It should have. And it's funny you say Tiger King. The place had a lot of Tiger King elements, in a good way and scary way, and I was one of those elements. It was not far from where Carol Baskin's Tiger Preserve is. Just as quirky, without the murder. Ooh. As Tiger King. Take that, Carol Baskin. Anyway, while doing that, I had got a call years before that. I had worked at Rosie O'Donnell's old TV show as a writer's assistant. And I had gotten a call randomly when Rosie O'Donnell was going to The View the first time that she had recommended me to Barbara Walters to be their new warm-up comedian because there was an opening. I went up, I auditioned, and then I flew back, and then I moved back from Florida up to New York, back to my parents' house. I didn't even bother unpacking my boxes because I thought the job was going to last 2 weeks.
Yeah, didn't even get out of the merman costume. Just kept the fin on.
A lot of people don't get the whole damn merman thing, so you don't lead with that one. But true story, the job was supposed to last 2 weeks, and I think it lasted 13 years until I left The View. Wow. And I think you get this being a premier auctioneer in not just New York City but the country is. I perform every show like it's my first show and like it's my last show.
Leave it out there. Leave it all out.
You know what? I don't know. I have so many side projects that I am more passionate about. Anyway, but the moral of the story is, how did I get that job? I didn't want it. I didn't try to get it. Every warm-up job I've gotten is not one I've applied for. I think that in my business, there's always that fear of getting fired right behind you. And there's also that pressure to, I want to get what's next. And like, it's funny. I feel like I hate talking about warm-up work this much because right now you don't know what's next, man. You're only as good as your next job. And you also don't want to be defined by the jobs. No warm-up comedian I know wants to be defined as the warm-up comedian. Frankly, if anybody I know who's good at warm-up is somebody who's aiming for the next step. I have a podcast, Tom Kelly Show, where I'm talking to people who are going through transitional periods. I have my stand-up, which right now has the brakes have been put on for 2020. Mm-hmm. And you're right. And at the end of the day, I think you always aim for the stars and you land on the moon. And with warm-up work, I almost hate giving away the secrets of it because I don't want anybody applying for my job. There's only right now.
There are no openings. There's nothing available in Tuscany, and there are no openings in warm-up. Got it.
Actually, let's go crazy, dude. But like right now for virtual warm-up, there's only 4 shows using virtual crowds. I mean, like you talk about how lucky I am. There's only 4 jobs like mine in the country right now.
Amazing.
With New York City warm up, there's only, when things were pre-pandemic, there were 10 jobs in the city and I had 2 of them.
So it went from niche to even nicher.
Yes. Niche is the right word, but I hate using it because it sounds like I'm trying at it, Okay. I think of it as more of a rare blessing that has been bestowed upon me, like being born royal. Listen, it sounds stupid, but for something where the field is so narrow, you're better off applying your talents to something else. It's kind of like my friend used to have a great joke about, would you rather buy a $5 lotto ticket for the Powerball where the odds are 1 in 10 million, or buy a $5 church raffle where the odds are 1 in 10? Now, I would argue that for warm-up work, it's still Powerball odds, but with church raffle payoff.
Oh,
financially.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're expected, and you have to give half of it back to the IRS as well. But, the rewards aren't that great, but you'd think they are. It's
I mean, I'm not a millionaire, I'm not, and again, I've, to your point too about the insecurity of a warm-up comedian, I have been a off-camera witness to some of the best moments in live TV history in the last 10 years. But let's emphasize off-camera witness. With all the studios shut down, I genuinely don't know what the world is going to look like when it reopens. Yeah. I genuinely don't know what blessings will be on my lap.
Yeah.
So, like right now, Good Morning America is doing very, very well without an audience. The View is doing a virtual crowd and they have a great comic there. Kelly Clarkson out in LA has a comedian performing to flat screen TVs. I think to be successful at anything, you need to be chasing the next big thing while working at what you're good at. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I'd agree with that. There's always something else, something bigger. You can be like, my goal is this. Right now I'm doing this. It's on the way to this. So it's a step on the ladder on the way there. But how you go from one show and then you get referred to another, like in auctions, 99% of my new business comes from referrals. With this, this came from Barbara Walters. Now, that's a pretty nice referral. But how did you started working for other people like Jordan Klepper and comedians? Now, when you do those other shows, when you're doing America's Got Talent, or if you're warming up the crowd for Jordan Klepper, is your approach different than a more wholesome audience?
And it's funny with Jordan Klepper, which was, for those of you who might remember or don't remember, he had actually a really good late night show.
He did. I love that show. He tackled politics, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, well, if Colbert, the problem was it was a brilliant joke, but not everybody got what he was making fun of. If Colbert on Comedy Central made fun of Bill O'Reilly, Jordan Klepper made fun of Alex Jones. When I was at Jordan Klepper, and here's a real story, they auditioned a lot of great comics, and there was a fear that I was too daytime there. I do pander to the crowd, but you still got to be you.
Yeah.
Like at America's Got Talent, there's kids in the room. So you gotta be cleaner. Now, the cool thing about live comedy or the gift of live comedy and not being famous is you can know the room, you can perform for the room, and if your foot goes in your mouth, you're generally not famous enough to get canceled.
I like it. So you mentioned that you've been a witness to some of the greatest moments off camera. Was there ever a time where one of the audience members that you were just being charming with either started heckling one of the hosts of the show or doing something crazy, like all of a sudden start taking their clothes off or do a political statement or something? Anything crazy like that ever happen?
God, I think that's such a big question with such a lame answer. No. Nothing. I think
never had to throw anybody out.
No, because and I have never had anybody thrown out. There was once where I saw a lady get thrown out. She just shamed another audience member for her body type, and it just was wrong. And the security team caught the moment, and it was way before the show. And she was quietly asked, "Hey, come on outside," and quietly left. But overall, outside of that one moment, I would say the audiences have been kind or able to control with my humor. I've been lucky. At America's Got Talent, when Howard Stern was there, the challenge was always to trick them into not saying Baba Booey. And with that, the pressure was on me to get, and AGT was a high pressure job. That was a room where anybody could heckle when it was at Radio City. Because, how do you find the person? So what you really had there was just being kind and begging, which really isn't quite a comedy skill, but I'm good at it.
But it sounds like your Zoom audiences have been tougher, and you have to just delete somebody from the Zoom, they've been tougher than the in-person audience. Maybe because they're not there. And
to be clear, and I don't know if I gave the wrong impression with that joke. I have never booted anybody with Tamron Hall or at anything like that. I've never booted anybody on a Zoom audience. I think I can. I have the confidence of a man who can. I
have the confidence of a man who will kick you off this video conference.
Oh, but it sounds silly, but it's kind of like there is something to be said about having the confidence of I can hit the mute button when you tell a joke or if someone's giving you trouble, and not having that. And I think that shines through in your performance. I in my earliest Zoom shows, you know, and anybody running a meeting, I challenge you guys. I give you a tip, whether you're teaching a class or whatever. I think you run it with the mute button and you unmute people one or two at a time. My first Zoom show, they were very hot to have the entire audience on mic. One, you had that tinny noise in your ear. Two, you had one person who had a chihuahua barking. Another person, well-intentioned, left and started making a margarita. And you heard the blender.
And couldn't make one for you, which was very disappointing.
There you go. And then one person probably, and then you had one or two people starting to yell, hit the mute, hit the mute. Yeah, so I think the one thing about Zoom performing versus live audiences, when you go to a show that whoever has the microphone, whoever has the talking stick, is the person who should be speaking.
Yes.
In a gallery mode on Zoom where everybody is 1 inch tall, there's
no height requirements, unfortunately.
Yeah, when everybody's this big and some people are on page 3 or 12, you do need to rework the rules for society.
There's no festivals right now, no live shows, so no live audiences. It's been tough, but we're still finding ways to connect to our subscribers and our audience. But for you and what you do, at least with the warm-up stuff, the show, the audience is your show. So how are you staying connected to the people who would normally subscribe to your comedy or would be a fan of yours?
Well, I guess that's a great segue for my independent work. I have an Instagram Tom Kelly Show. I have a TikTok Tom Kelly Show. I have a Facebook Tom Kelly Show. I have a YouTube Tom Kelly Show. I have a Venmo Tom Kelly Show. I always love it whenever I give that plug. I always get one donation for 25 cents.
Wow. That's just rude, though.
I actually love it because it shows someone paid attention without me feeling like I'm taking advantage.
Literally paid attention.
Yeah.
Paid for attention.
You and the puns. You and the puns, they're tough to keep up with. They come so quick sometimes. And then I'm launching a podcast. And I had one podcast, and I've rebranded it to being more about me. I think right now for any artist, it's time to create, and we'll find the crowd later. Stay in touch with small bits. Give it away for free, and hope that they come looking for you later. Right now on my website, I just redid my website to start doing, you were so kind to hook me up with substitute auctioneer work last year for all the dates you weren't available. And by the way, folks, I don't know if you guys are Pat Tully fans listening to this festivalPass podcast, but here's the funny thing about subbing in for Pat Tully. It's, what happened to Pat Tully? And then there's this nice thing where you say, you do a good job, you did a good job, and you go to leave the event and you say, see you next year. And then they go, not if Pat Tully's available.
That's high praise.
It is high praise, and it's genuine. But right now, with so much of the paying work gone, I think this is the time to create. This is the time to build your empire. I mean, I'm doing holiday parties and office parties and family events. If you want to find me, my rates are very flexible. All at TomKellyShow.com.
I'm available.
I'm available, and I'm blessed that if you guys want tickets to see me at Tamron Hall, that's at my website, TomKellyShow.com. But I think right now I'm a little bit lost as an artist, and that's why I went with the podcasting thing, because I think the podcasting thing is giving me a chance to connect with people like you, to find an excuse to have a real moment one-on-one that you may not have with, hey, Pat, what do you say we just talk on the phone? It just, doesn't this feel like more of an event than me calling you when I'm on my power walk? It does. It does. It feels more important, and it's a memory to create. And especially right now, as a man who is just getting over COVID-19, my breathing is better, but I can smell my own farts. So we're going in the right direction.
I reckon that's Dunkin' Donuts right there. Yep, that's me.
It's funny. So, and this is a great recovering from COVID-19 moment. I got my hair cut today, and
it looks fabulous.
And thank you. I knew I had Pat Tully on the festivalPass podcast, so I had to make myself look good.
You got to look good.
Yeah, this is a great trip to the lemon tree paying off right here. But anyway, the hot hair washer girl is going to the computer next to my chair, and I let one go, and then she walked back past my chair, and I'm like, oh, this ain't ever happening. This is done. She's going to respect me less after this little flyby. No amount of
N95. Full massage. You got
Yes.
full hair massage.
I got the hair massage, but there was just that moment of she's smelling me through the N95.
Yeah, you know, the masks are really good, but I'm like, you know, you can still, like, I can smell people's cigarettes and all that kind of stuff. So let's talk about that. Look, you have found this whole new superpower in yourself to reinvent yourself during this pandemic, during this shutdown. But you actually, as you just said, you got COVID. And what was that experience like?
I wouldn't wish COVID on my worst enemy. I didn't have it as bad as some people. I actually had a friend who got it around this. I have a friend who got it separately around the same time I got it, and he died. But he was also the poster child for high risk group. You know, he was like, if Fauci were, I love the guy, Kenny Ortega, great comedian. And he's one of 4 friends in my life who I was scared about his health before the pandemic. Great man though, great comic, and a man who could surf a crowd and make magic happen. And his life was tragically cut short. Me, I was on this sofa for 3 days straight, begging people to stop calling me so I could sleep it off. My nightmares and fevers were so bad, I was waking up screaming for my mother. I remember that, just having nightmares where I was screaming for mommy. I would not wish it upon anybody. My breathing is still tight. I get tired very fast. And I'm in that weird spot of, am I the cocky son of a gun with antibodies? Like, I have friends who have been performing indoors 4 or 5 nights a week, and they're fine. How am I the one who got it? I just went to a party for an hour, had a slice of chocolate cake, and left, and somehow I got COVID at this event. And at this family event or friend event, 8 out of 9 people at the party got it. And the 9th person just got a flu. I wonder if they really got tested. You know?
You were at a super spreader event.
I mean, yeah. I have another loved one who got it at a funeral, but I think only 2 or 3 people got it at that. So we don't know if it was from that. Right now, I hate to say this because my views are very torn. I'm like, why can't we open up and be a little bit safer? And then I got it at a small Fauci-approved party that, you know, it was just under 10. And we were all screaming, hey, when are we going to reopen New York, whatever, you know? And I don't know why I just keep doing that only one voice right now. But, yeah, I got it exactly the way they said it would do it. So I don't know. So to your point, how do you reinvent yourself? Listen, a friend of mine, a guy you should look up, a friend of mine, Jay Nog, has been doing comedy every 2 weeks at his drive-in / outdoor show in Queens. Okay. Comedians are performing outdoors in the cold. There's a lot of stand-up right now indoors that's underground, almost speakeasy level comedy. I don't know if I'm emotionally ready for that. I have said there is a price. There is an amount of money I will take to perform indoors and risk COVID. Few people have matched that rate.
Now that you've got the antibodies, you're ready. You're feeling strong.
I don't believe, listen, man, I don't trust this antibody thing. I know people have caught it more than once. But I've also done shows indoors where I have performed with a mask on. In fact, Michael Strahan, God bless him, hired me to work at the $100,000 pyramid this year to entertain 10 staff members over and over and over again. And forever, if you ever get a chance to buy something Strahan's selling, you buy it, man. The man is a saint.
I'm head to toe in M. Strahan by Van Heusen right now. He's not even a sponsor of the show. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, and he's selling. He has actually a great suit line that's now available at Men's Warehouse. But enough about promoting his stuff. He's got enough money. But he was a good enough man to let me perform. And this was in August when the alert level was a little lower, where I was in a face mask. I did another show with the Impractical Jokers where they had a staff audience of some sort where I was performing with a mask and the face shield. With the face shield, it's difficult to perform.
Yes, because the fogs up quickly. We all saw Andy Reid in the football game.
So I don't know. Listen, where is it going? So I think right now if you're an artist, you need to put a certain percentage of your time into reinventing yourself. I don't care what your business is. You should probably be doing that anyway, even during good times. And even to your point about me doing warm-up before and me not liking to tell those stories, thank God I had other work besides TV studio work.
Right.
You know, I have a small career as a ghostwriter going that actually kept me going through this.
What are you working on?
I'm not allowed to tell. There you go.
You're that much of a ghost. You can't even talk about it.
That much of a ghost. I have had a nice career writing for morning radio shows around the country. And I work for iHeart Media and they actually give me my health insurance. And I got more invested in helping local radio personalities shine.
So the ghostwriting, you're finding some work doing the ghostwriting right now, and you're enjoying this.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't even know if I'm enjoying not being poor and keeping things vague. Yeah, and I don't even mean to, but keeping things vague. I have a ghostwriting job, and everybody should have. I believe in lots of small checks versus one big one.
I like that.
You know, with
something
whatever
falls off, you've got 9 other things to do.
Yeah, and to your point even before about where do I go with my career, I have, I've chased high-level fame. You know, I've chased all these big things that have not panned out, but I have survived. If I haven't picked up on the $10 bills, I have cleaned up on the quarters, if not the nickels.
You're a working man in comedy and entertainment, and that is something that not many people can say, but a lot of people go for, and they don't even get to that working.
Yeah. And it's such a, the one thing I hate about my more prestigious career as a warm-up work, and I actually hate it about life. I hate being defined by my labels because you never know when life is going to take those labels away from you. Yeah. So I learned years ago, Rosie O'Donnell, I was the guy who was working at Rosie O'Donnell's show, and my high school friends, my college priest, all these people, said, hey, it's the guy who works for Rosie O'Donnell. And then one day Rosie O'Donnell said, I don't want to do this show anymore. I have achieved this goal and I'm looking for what's next. And
Rosie doing that. Rosie was done with it.
Rosie ended her own show. It was, it is one of the great examples in life of a person knowing where she was mentally and getting out on a high note. Wow. May we all have the opportunity to do that in our own lives in our own ways. She said, hey, I got enough money. This isn't bringing me joy anymore. And she got out. When she ran her contract of fulfillment and then ended it. And that was for me the lowest moment of my life because I just couldn't pick up work again after. It's funny. And that's when I started pursuing stand-up full time. I started writing randomly for radio shows, and some of that turned into paying work. But the funny one is, during that, the lowest point of my life is when I was hustling and accidentally reinventing and doing crazy things that got the attention of people. That way, when Rosie needed a warm-up comedian, she remembered I was alive and referred me to a friend, referred me to her friend, Barbara Walters. Boom. Sometimes so it's taken me a 40-minute podcast to answer your question before is how do you get this work? You plant the little seeds and you hope some of them grow. And the hard part is, this is probably why my grandparents gave up farming, is the plants you work the hardest on growing may not be the ones that grow. And other things start growing around it. So that's why you should constantly be putting energy into your dreams and also keep an eye out for the things around your dreams that are growing. Yeah. Because listen, I wanted to be Letterman. That did not happen. That probably is not going to happen. But I've had an accidental side career that is actually pretty fun and fulfilling. But like you, how did you wind up becoming a premier auctioneer? It sounds stupid, but if you knew what Pat charges per show, people, you'd all want to be auctioneers. And I mean that, and it sounds crazy, but you did not want to be an auctioneer when you grew up, and somehow you became a really good one.
It totally happened by accident at an event that I was co-hosting, a charity event. The auctioneer didn't show up. So I had a couple of vodka sodas in me, and they said, "What are we going to do? We don't have an auctioneer." And I'm like, "You do now." And I was doing some improv comedy at the time with Upright Citizens Brigade. So I knew how to work a crowd and knew how to improv in some situations. I think I just knew that naturally anyway. And I knew everybody in the room, so I shamed my friends into giving money, and it felt really good. And then somebody asked me when I got off stage there to do another event. And he said, look, I got my kid's school auction next Friday. I hate doing it. They always make me do it. It's so awkward. I said, oh, look, man, I'm not doing anything next Friday. See you there, because I'm an auctioneer. And it was like, let's see where this goes. And it was a side gig for a really long time until it became a full-time gig. And it is incredibly rewarding. And it's an absolute blessing. And not something I ever thought I would do ever in my life.
See, and what you also have that I don't have, and this is probably I don't mean to knock myself out of substitute work here, but the pressure is immense. How do you handle the pressure of, oh my gosh, I guess we won't have Little League next year if Pat doesn't raise enough money?
I think it's just being self-deprecating of myself and shaming people lightly and respectfully. And also I'm tall. So that we can't tell here. But when I put my foot up on the table, do the captain motion. And I'm like, are you sure we don't want to do this? Are we not going to bid any higher? And they're like, I'm just going to, if you can just leave the table, we'll bid. And there we go. Look at that, folks. Okay. Look at that, folks. Okay. We got another bid. That's fantastic. Michael could do that. Michael could be an auctioneer if this whole other thing doesn't work out in his talk show career. He could be an auctioneer. I think he would do just a fine job with that.
Here's another question for you. Not to flip the interview, but
welcome to the Tom Kelly Show. You can find that at Tom Kelly.
No, but for real, you're a man with immense talent. You're broadening yourself out hosting a podcast. Do you feel limited when people say, "Oh, auctioneer," and they don't mention your other skills?
Well, I think it's funny when they say, "Oh, we're also looking for an MC," and I was like, "Well, I do that too," and they're like, "Oh, do you really?" Yes, I MC all the time. But I sent you some MC work when I couldn't do another MC event. Like, do you have anybody else? I said, yes, I do. At Tom Kelly Show, yeah. Got to check out Tom Kelly.
And I guess that's a question too. How do you get past? I guess, and because it's a difficulty I'm having, and maybe you can give me advice, is how do you broaden past the limiting labels that we sometimes let the business put on ourselves?
I think it's just let your talent shine in whatever you're doing, and people are like, obviously, you're more than an auctioneer. You're more than a comedian. There's some smarts in there because you were thinking fast on your feet. You're able to interact with human beings. What's your sales job? People ask me all the time, so what do you do during the day? And I was like, well, this is what I do. And they're like, yeah, but during the day, what do you do? I'm like, I don't sleep in. I'm like, I'm preparing. I'm like, there's a reason why that auction went so well, because I prepared. These notes were done by me. Those jokes that maybe somebody else heard at another ballroom last night, but that's my stuff. Like, I work at this. It's a craft. It is a job. And I consult with the people, and they're like, oh, we've got this great auction item. I'm like, no, that's a terrible idea. What we should do is sell this instead, and I'll go maybe help you find it. Maybe I can provide that. So I think if your talent shines through, people just know that you're more than just that thing that they see you doing right there.
I like that. I think that's something who'd have thought I'd go on your podcast and then you could have just cut me out and just use that last.
Thank you for promoting me. I appreciate that.
Yeah. No, and I think that's something you have to do. Like, it's funny. I'm a big fan. You've been a big part of my success for surviving the pandemic. And it's funny. I think we're in a spot. I'm going to push this on my podcast next week. I'm a big believer in trying to build up success pods is my new catchphrase. Yeah. Is find one or two people you like. And this is not a comedian thought, but it is a genuine and wholesome person thought, which is find someone small you like and build up their business. Like, whether that's be, and there's a lot of free ways you can build. Everyone knows somebody who's opened up a shop or is selling something. You can either buy from that small shop You can buy whatever they're selling, or an easy one. Just like all their pictures on Instagram, or write them the 5-star review on Google or Yelp. I've been sillily sponsoring a friend of mine who's opened a small shop, Mikey Russo. He's a great guy, Michael Russo. He's actually been on a lot of the TV shows you've been to. He is a celebrity wedding planner. He and I hosted a podcast together for a while. And while that podcast didn't work out, a lot of the skills I developed during it have helped me in 2020.
Yeah, you need those friends in your life.
Yeah, help out a friend, man.
You hope you have friends like that in life, right? That pick you up when you're down and when the chips are down. And those are the people that really shine through.
Yeah, during this holiday season, if if you can't do something nice for yourself, take an hour and help someone you like in your community to be successful. And that's what you've done for me. And I'm grateful for that.
Well, thank you. And you've done a great job with it. Now, on that note, it's like, instead of going to Home Depot or to Amazon, whatever that product is, Google your neighborhood or Google within 2 miles of your home. I bet somebody sells it, and go give them the business.
You just said it before the show that you did not go to Home Depot and you went to, what's the Upper West Side hardware store in Amsterdam? The one by Stand Up
Beacon, which is under new ownership.
Yeah, and there you go. You're keeping one guy. Like, everyone complains, oh, all these stores are closed. Well, you know why they're closed? Because you weren't buying stuff from them.
Yeah, because you're just going on Amazon because it's so easy. I get it. It's so easy.
And listen, Amazon has its place. I've made my money on Amazon stock. Amazon has its place. But maybe if you took the extra 10 minutes here and there and didn't buy everything from them, I don't know. Actually, here's a great small business I love. There's a woman, Kelly Banks. She's actually a friend of Strahan's. I met her at the TV shows. She makes brownies. And when I have to send a gift to somebody, I send kellybankscakes.com. She's never going to be a millionaire. She's just not, it's just not her ambition to do that as a full-time job. But you know what? Buying $25 worth of brownies from her puts money in a mom's pocket, and she's happy. Another one, Zenobia's Sweet Tooth. The woman makes great banana cookies.
Okay. Banana cookies.
Little banana pudding-like cookies. It's amazing. And you're right. You may not make the mom and pop person a millionaire. And even with entertainment, bringing this back to the theme of this festival podcast, support the people you would see at the festivals. The festivals were about bringing lots of lesser known people together, and you discover art, right?
Yes. Art, music, film, food, comedy. So
whatever your festival is, why not find some of the, like Boston Comedy Festival did a virtual event. I didn't feel ambitious enough to try to audition for them this year. Find those independent comics. Follow them on Instagram and Facebook and all those things. Like, we spend so much time listening to Joe Rogan. You know what? Joe Rogan's made his money. Why not find a lesser known comic and subscribe to him or her? What we talk about the time of, in this Me Too and Black Lives Matter stuff, why not make an effort to find someone you've never discovered? Listen, it's very easy to follow Chris Rock and Kevin Hart, but find a lesser known comic of color and follow them. Not to also say that balding Irish guys also are great to follow during this time.
Yeah, but find that balding Irish guy out there. Give them a chance.
Put your money, put your time, put your ears. That's how the festivalPass community can be a part of this.
So speaking of which, and let's bring it back to actual festivals here for a second. What have you done with comedy? I see you have tour dates on your website. Obviously, right now the tour dates say not applicable. But have you done comedy festivals? Do you like doing comedy festivals?
I love anything with a light and a microphone, man. Festival crowds are generally great. I think a festival is a great spot to see entertainment, because you do see people who still have their puppy dog eyes going. Like they still are trying to get somewhere. It's funny. I'm trying to get to that stage too, where I always say you got to be trying new things. I also think there's something to be said about being confident where you're at. But the fun thing about going to a festival, I did the Boston Comedy Festival once, and I found the crowd to be angry and artsy. And I was on a showcase show where I was comic 105. It wasn't quite that bad, but before I get cocky, there were people behind me who did perfectly well. So I don't know. Could be me performing in a new town. It could be just that I did a short set. But overall, and I've done a couple of New York Comedy Festival shows, but I think a festival is fun because you get to see a lot all at once.
Yes.
And it sounds silly, but it's kind of like eating food family style because you may discover something you didn't like. And again, going back to what I was saying about eyeballs, you can invest in a smaller comedian. Like I answer all my DMs. I'm needy, people. I'm needy. If you comment on my stuff, I will reply. I am needy. I reply to 90% of what I get. You text Conan O'Brien. He says, "What's the internet?" Even though he's much more talented than I am. And I don't know why I'm attacking Conan because he's actually got a podcast I love. But, Joe Rogan blatantly says he doesn't go on Twitter anymore. I will answer all my trolls on YouTube. Actually, I got a great troll message. I got a great troll that I replied. He said, the troll message was,
welcome to the mean tweets. Welcome to the mean tweets version where Tom Kelly reads. We're stealing a Jimmy Kimmel bit here. Hope Jimmy doesn't mind. He watches this every week. So
my tweet was, sometimes I see a comedian and I wonder why he doesn't have more followers. And then there's the read more button. That is not the case with Tom Kelly. And then he goes, this man is a hack. He is a loser. And you know what? I am small enough a comedian that man got my attention and affected me. You win, angry troll, on my Nancy Pelosi ice cream video. You win, sir.
Yeah, I try to not be a troll, but every once in a while, I troll. I'll admit it. I don't mean to, but I just did it the other day. Because I just saw, I thought, like, you are just somebody who was not contributing to society. And I just felt the need to let them know that they didn't like New York City anymore. And they're like, hey, I'm thankful that I'm moving out of New York City. What are you thankful for? And I said, good riddance. Do you need help packing? Can we help you go today? I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to get you out of here. We don't need people like you. Why are you kicking us when we're down? Because we're going to be back and we're not going to let you back in.
Yeah. It's crazy. Crazy times, my friend. Crazy, crazy times.
Yeah. So look, you started a podcast during the pandemic. You found out about all this new stuff about yourself, but is there like a superpower that you found? Like all of a sudden, are you baking amazing banana pudding cookies or something? Is there going to be a new @Tom Kelly baking show that we're going to see? Something like that?
That is a great question for somebody else. I have achieved nothing. No, it's actually a great question. It's funny. Whenever I'm not being funny, I go to being deep. So I hope you don't mind that. But I read a book, U Squared. Everybody should read it. It's a 20-page pamphlet. It's a self-help pamphlet, really. It's $4. Price Pritchett was the writer. And the opening story is about a fly trying to break through a window. And the fly keeps trying to break through the window. And the punchline to the story is, had the fly only gone back a little bit and wandered around, it would have found an open door and the fly wouldn't be dead on the windowsill. And that's sort of how I've been. I've been wandering. Mm-hmm. I have my biggest fear about pandemic ending is pandemic will be over. And I will wonder if I wasted it and took full advantage of it. But I've taken a lot of small chances. I launched a podcast. I had been writing. I wrote half of a book that looks like the creepiest manifesto ever and will never see the light of day. But I have taken chances. Is it in magazine
letters? Is it cut out magazine letters, the whole thing?
Yes, that's probably part of why it's taken so long to write it.
That's
yes.
It's going to take you a while, and that's going to be creepy.
Yeah, it's the scissors. It's the scissor work that's taken the longest. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Pat. It's the scary part is you wonder if you've done enough to reinvent. Like you want to be that success story of, pandemic came and I launched a podcast and now I have a deal with Spotify. Yeah. That may not happen. Yeah. But what I did get out of that is the wandering has led to me developing random skills that became useful later. Like I mean, I told you about planting seeds you don't know how to plant. I learned how to use a soundboard, and that has made me and I did it for a podcast. And I had a podcast. It was the best idea at the worst time ever. I was paired up with a celebrity wedding planner, that my friend Mikey Russo. Great idea, but the problem was all the weddings started getting canceled.
Right.
And in fact, weddings started becoming super spreader events. It almost felt like by the end of our run with our wedding podcast, we were enabling COVID deniers. It just didn't feel right.
Don't you dare throw a wedding.
Yeah, it's like, hey, here are some tips for helping with the manslaughter of Nana.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it felt like.
Put her on a plane. Have her stay at a hotel.
Have her lick the altar, you know, exactly. And that's what it sort of felt like at the end. But I learned skills. I learned how to set up an RSS feed. Like I redid my website. I mean, a great one, Pat. You talk about the influence you've had on my pandemic. I redid I felt when I was getting job leads from you that my website was not up to snuff for prospective business. So I spent hours
for the auctions.
Yeah, for the auctions and MC work and event work. And people would go to people in the year 2019 would go to my website. My website was still rooted in 2011 technology, if that.
Yeah.
And I felt my demo reels were flat and whatever. So I put a lot of energy, and I'm still putting energy into reworking my TomKellyShow.com website, hoping that it'll be friendly to people who want to hire me for their private and virtual events. And I really did it with you in mind, thinking I was trying to get more auction work.
Good.
And now that it looks like the auctions may be gone for a while, I'm reworking it for more virtual MC work. But again, you can aim at this point. It's almost like you may not score a touchdown, but maybe you can make the next 4 yards. Maybe
you're putting points on the board, regardless of if it's a touchdown or a field goal.
Motion. You know what? I think 2020 for me has been about motion, man. Like even for online dating, I signed up and you know what? And I just got an email from a woman looking for a sugar daddy.
Whoa.
But it's motion. At least I set up the account.
Is she looking for you to buy her handbags or just like food at this point?
Well, it's funny. I said, okay, first I replied with the joke, I may not be a sugar daddy, but I could be a great Splenda daddy. She did not laugh. And then she says, what do you mean by that? And then I just replied with, what do you mean? And then my reply was, what do you mean by sugar baby? And then she unmatched me. So, okay. So she said,
you got to know that she wasn't the one very quickly. So that
but even worse, I started telling her that I'm not the one for her in the best way. She said, like it was just this awkwardness of, she seemed legit. The pictures were cute, but not so hot that you go, whatever. But she says, I'm looking for a sugar daddy. And I'm like, what would you provide as a sugar baby? She goes, I asked you first. And I said, well, I'm a comedian and it's 2020. Unmatch.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, she got the hint. Like, yeah, there's not too much sugar from daddy this year. So, I mean, you took a big leap giving up your day job to pursue the night job.
Yes.
And the night job, and through no fault of your own, the night job collapsed. How are you handling this?
Well, I've been just making sure that I've been trying to convince as many clients as possible to go virtual and showing them the virtues of going virtual. And I invite them to see other events I'm doing. I'm like, I'm doing one tomorrow night, and you can see the technology we've developed. As you said, you figured out how to do an RSS feed. You figured out how to do all this stuff. It's like I had to get up to speed on a lot of technology in live streaming that I never thought I would have to learn. And now it's like I can do a lot with this. And, I've learned how to design a few very small things. I could never run a show on my own, but I know it needs to be done. And I know what the layers on the screens and everything. And, obviously we've got the green screen behind us and working with that technology and learning about the lighting and everything else. So
here's something that I think virtual entertainers, and I include you in that category, have to learn is either the world isn't getting so much better in 2021. And I think virtual is here to stay. I think we're reprogramming the way we handle people. Because honestly, like for me, there's a lot of fat in my life that's been cut out, and I'm happy not to be involved in it.
I think there's going to be an element of this, and you're going to have the events that were 500 people. There's going to be people who say, any chance there's a virtual element to this? And we're going to say, yes, we're going to live stream the event from the Ritz-Carlton, or again, not a sponsor of our show. They should be. But pick a venue anywhere, the Cipriani's or Capital or something like that. Or
the Days Inn in Hamden, Connecticut. You're telling me that do you think there will be a virtual component to what you're doing in the future?
I do. Let's say 400 people in the room instead of 700. And there's going to be some people that at least for a couple of years are not going to be able to, aren't going to want to attend. They're like, there's 20% of the society, if not more, will not take the vaccine. We need to get to 80% to get to herd immunity, if you want to call it that. We need to get to 80% to get back into Yankee Stadium and places like that. So we definitely need 80% to get back into those ballrooms that I was saying. But I think there's going to be this element where people are going to say, I'm just still not comfortable. And you know what? I don't want to spend 4 hours at a gala, but I do want to support the coalition for the homeless that we're raising money for, or the food bank, or this cancer research organization. So can I watch the show? Can I watch everybody in the ballroom?
And I think there's a positive twist to what you're saying too, is imagine now people who like I'm doing a virtual comedy show for an insurance company in Michigan. They're paying actually decent money. Never would I have had the time to take off from my New York work to go to Michigan to do this. I think you're going to see, if we treat 2020 like a chance to reinvent rather than a curse, I think you're going to find guys like you are going to be really successful in 2022, not 2021, but 2022 is going to be your year. And that sounds stupid, but you're smart enough to reinvent. You're smart enough to pivot. And pivot is such an overplayed word.
Oh yeah. We should have to take a shot, I think, every time someone says pivot, or push-ups. 20 push-ups every time someone uses a quarantine buzzword like that.
Well, but integrate, I think, is a new word that you and I are creating here on the festivalPass podcast. But integrate the pivots, and again, we got to find a better word for pivots, but we have to adapt. Maybe me as a comedian, I can reach independent super fans who don't want to go out to a bar that doesn't want to book me. The nice thing about this is I have cut out the middleman.
Yeah, and now we're going direct to them, and the audiences, we can have those people in the room, and you can reach a whole new world of people, especially if you've got some headliners at your events. You've got some bold-faced names, and somebody who would love to come to New York City when this thing comes back, but they're like, I can't afford a $1,000 ticket to that gala. Mm-hmm. Well, how about we send you a link to it? You can watch it for free, but we are going to ask you to donate. And if you can get 10% of those people to donate, we're going to raise more money for some of the best charities in the world, and we're going to be able to solve some pretty awesome problems by maybe even being a little bit more inclusive, by letting other people, you're not breathing that air, and that sounds like a weird thing to say during COVID, but you're not breathing that rarefied air of the $1,000 plate dinner. You're not in the room, but you're watching what's going on, and you're getting a piece of that, and you're like, because of that and that entertainment value I just got there, I'd love to give you $100. You get that, and the knock-on effect of that, and the amount of organizations and the amount of real problems that we can tackle.
And it's funny, I see this with my university and some other charities I've given to over the years. I felt like I raised a large amount of money for my university in the name of a Catholic priest who I adored. And I felt incredibly blown off by that experience at Quinnipiac University, my college. But suddenly they're being a lot nicer to me. And I think that's because of the bad year that they're having. Suddenly, and they're suddenly taking the Tom Kelly approach to comedy and applying it to fundraising, which is, we're going to fix things and we're going to clean up on the nickels and dimes if we're not getting the $10 bills anymore.
Well said.
And I think that's a great, and also if I could give you unsolicited advice, this is the time for anybody who's an artist who might be listening to this show. Build up an email mailing list. I've known this for years and I've been lazy about doing it because I know for sure after, quite frankly, performing in your shadow, that there are fans who go to charity events because they see Pat Tully is doing the event.
Oh, stop it.
No, and that's scary. But now here's where I bet you're not failing, but I bet here's where you fell short is you don't have those individuals' email addresses. Because I think the one thing we're learning too is if you have direct connections, not just with the event planners, whether it be in my case, my failure in 20 years of comedy is I have relied on middlemen and women. I've relied on comedy clubs to put me on the stage. I have relied on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube, and I have trusted their algorithm. And then what happens is if there's a new booker at the club, boom, suddenly you're not on that stage. The middleman is gone. YouTube and the social media outlets change the algorithms. That's gone. And at least with email, and honestly, I'm a big fan nowadays of getting mailing addresses. I don't know how I'm going to do that and what I'm going to need it for. But at this point, I feel like the United States Postal Service is the only middleman I can trust.
And not many people have trusted the post office this year, so that's very kind of you to do that.
It's a small amount of support in a very tough year for them.
There you go. I'm here for you, USPS. I'm ready to buy stamps.
Pat, this was great, and I think the Postmaster General is going to be the happiest listener of all.
Tom, thank you so much for joining us, for spending a lot of time here with us today between all the projects that you're working on. Folks, you can find him at Tom Kelly Show. If you're watching, you can see it on the screen. That's not Don Johnson. That is Tom Kelly, just to make sure people know. I wasn't sure. At Tom Kelly Show, folks. And you've been listening to what turned out to be the Tully Kelly Show. So thanks again, Tom, and we will see everybody next time, hopefully when the vaccine is out there and we can get back to festivals, but we will see you next time on Festival Pass. This is Festival Pass Stories, a podcast series is told by the people who create and make festivals come to life. You will go behind the stage, kitchen, or studio door to hear the stories of passion and inspiration that started some of the world's most beloved festivals. Hear the startup stories and how an idea went from what if to what's next.